Yaffee program on WVNN.
Do the Democrats and their friends in the propaganda press, do they want us to lose this war? I mean, it's been a week, and you would think, listening to what they say and listening to a lot of the reports, that we're already losing, that it's a complete disaster. Now, they have a lot of experience of trying to do this. They did the same thing in Iraq and Afghanistan, usually not after a first week. This is pretty soon. But that's just not the reality. The reality on the ground is the United States, along with Israel, we're winning pretty handedly. And if this goes pretty well, you think oil prices are high now, they could plummet. If you have more peace in the Middle East, more oil from Iran, plus more peace in Venezuela, more oil from Venezuela, what that will do to gas prices. So, as I mentioned, you're going to see high gas prices the next couple of weeks. And it's going to suck. I agree with that. But I also think it could be temporary. And I think a lot of this is panic of the markets, which we see sometimes. Panic can affect the markets. So we'll talk about that here on the Yaffee program, News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. Glad you've joined the show this Monday morning. And since it is Monday morning, let's get to it. We have the first segment here of the Sunday News Shows recap. Recapping what happened on those Sunday news talk shows. I'm talking CNN State of the Union, CBS Face the Nation, Fox News Sunday, ABC This Week, and others. Meet the Press too. So you don't have to watch them. I do it for you. You get Sundays off and do what you want. Pretty sure Dale Jackson watches Hallmark movies. I don't know why. He got into it during Christmas, and I think he just keeps watching it. And other people I know watch reruns of Gunsmoke. Do what you want. I'll give you the latest the next days. My public service to you. You're welcome. So I want to start with some of these cuts from, he was the former national security advisor. Now he is the U.S. ambassador to the UN, Mike Waltz. He was on a couple of the Sunday news talk shows. I'm going to start with him on ABC This Week, talking about the end goal when it comes to Iran and this military operation. So if you can, Walker, play Mike Waltz cut one for me.
Well, look, we'll just let the statistics from our Central Command Commander, Admiral Brad Cooper, speak for themselves. We've seen ballistic missile launches from Iran largely degraded. The figures that they're putting out, around 90% reduction from the first days of the war a week ago. Drone launches down 70 to 80%. Those are still significant. We're still seeing Iran lash out in all directions at its neighbors, at our allies, Kuwait, Bahrain, UAE, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia and others. So at the end of the day, what the president is focused on is an Iran that can no longer pose a threat to Americans in an American-first foreign policy, but also no longer pose a threat to our allies in the region.
So, by the way, Trump said unconditional surrender. And Pete Hegseth was asked about that. And he basically said whether the Iranians want to believe it or not, it's when they basically can't attack the United States or their allies again. And Trump said at the beginning this would probably take at least 4 to 5 weeks, could take longer. It's been 1 week. So a lot of the freak out over this, it's just not warranted as of yet. Doesn't mean it won't be in the future. But there's also a lot of talk, unfortunately, because the propaganda press, they want to focus on this, so do the Democrats. But there's a lot of talk about the fact that it looks like an Iranian school was hit in a missile strike. Trump says he thinks it was from Iran. Others say it was probably a mistake by the U.S. But Mike Waltz was asked about this on ABC This Week. I think he makes a good point. Play a cut two for me.
Well, I'll leave that to the investigators to determine. We've seen instances like we saw in Gaza, for example, where Hamas immediately blamed the Israelis. The international community jumped on it, and it turned out it was an errant rocket from Hamas. So we've seen those kind of incidences in the past. As Secretary Hegseth said, it's under investigation. I could tell you as a veteran in no uncertain terms, the United States does everything it can to avoid civilian casualties. Sometimes, of course, tragic mistakes occur.
So, I mean, he's right. And then later, Mike Waltz goes on Meet the Press and kind of brings this point home when it comes to, even if it was a mistake by the United States, it was a mistake. The United States doesn't do this on purpose. We can't forget that Iran would do something like this on purpose, and they have in the past. So play a cut 3 of Mike Waltz.
Okay, so look, a couple of things here. One, well, let's let the investigation play out. Number two, again, as a veteran and special operator, we never deliberately attack civilians. If civilians were injured, it's always by accident. Contrast that. I mean, this is really rich coming from the Iranians, who they and their proxies hide caches of weapons and military apparatus in hospitals and schools. We know they do that all over the world. And this is coming from a regime that literally has massacred its own people at an industrial scale. So I don't believe a word coming out of their mouth. Let the investigation play out.
Exactly right. I mean, we're trying to make America look like the bad guy. Oh, Iranian citizens wouldn't have been killed if it weren't for America getting involved. Iranian citizens were killed before we got involved by this evil regime, just slaughtering thousands of their own people for merely protesting them. So I don't want to hear it from them. Now, it doesn't stop many of the Democrats from weighing in, being against this, including Hakeem Jeffries, who's the House Minority Leader for the Democrat Party. Going to play Hakeem Jeffries cut 1 for me.
Well, certainly as it relates to the Ayatollah, he was a bad actor, and I'm not going to shed any tears as a result of his departure. I think the big question is, why did we get into this war? What are our strategic objectives? Because they shift every day. And what is the plan to get out of this conflict? The American people don't want to see billions of dollars being spent to bomb Iran in the Middle East, while at the same period of time, my Republican colleagues and this president are unwilling to spend a dime to lower their grocery bills, spend a dime to actually make it more affordable to go see a doctor, or do anything about this affordability crisis that is very real in the United States of America.
Oh, I hate this so much. I talked about this yesterday, or not yesterday, last week, where some Democrats are out there claiming, you know, if we weren't spending money on a war, we could spend that money here to lower healthcare prices. We could have free healthcare. And I make the point 1, no, the issue of high prices on things like groceries has nothing to do with any type of military spending. But also, the solution for high prices is not more government spending and control in the marketplace. The fact is, even if we're not spending it overseas, then we should just not spend it. But the idea that we could take, however much this war costs, that we just have billions of dollars and we should use that for subsidies, for welfare programs, for Americans, is a terrible idea. That does not help the marketplace. So don't forget, the problem with socialism isn't just that it costs a lot of money. The other problem with socialism is that it screws up the marketplace and can make things worse, no matter how much it costs. So that's something that isn't said enough, but Democrats, they keep throwing out this line. Oh, not just Democrats, the horseshoe right, the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world also make that point, which is very annoying. Go ahead and play Hakeem Jeffries cut 2 for me.
Well, House and Senate Democrats have actually introduced legislation to make sure that every other aspect of the Department of Homeland Security is funded in order to ensure that we are protecting our national security, funding the Coast Guard, funding FEMA, as well as funding TSA. Unfortunately, Republicans have decided that they would block those changes from being put into place in order simply to continue to protect and shield ICE from the type of accountability, the type of dramatic change that's necessary. Things that we're asking to do that are common sense, like making sure that judicial warrants are required before ICE agents can break into the homes of the American people, ensure that there are independent investigations when ICE agents break the law or even kill American citizens, so that there's accountability. We want to make sure sensitive locations like schools and hospitals are protected, including other locations like houses of worship and polling sites. These are common sense reforms that are necessary in order to get ICE under control.
Leader Jeff.
Why do you care if ICE is at a polling place? I mean, I know I'm not the only one who brought that up. Katie Britt, one of our U.S. senators, brought that up, but it's a good question. Oh, we want to make sure ICE, they're not at polling places. Now, I don't think there was any plans to put them at polling places anyway. But if there's an ICE agent at a polling place, what do I care? Only illegal immigrants should care about that, right? It's completely absurd. But the fact is, there's no reason. The Republicans have compromised some. Trump has fired Kristi Noem. He sent Tom Homan to Minneapolis. Republicans say they support body cameras. And there was funding in this to add more training for ICE agents. There were some compromises. The Democrats don't care. they don't want to. And ICE is already funded. So I unfortunately, this is going to go on. It might end just like the last shutdown ended, where some moderate Democrats have to make a deal. So we'll have to see. If you want to weigh in, we have our Yaffee text line, of course, 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNN. Red weighed in and said, I think people freaking out over $5 to $15 per tank fill-up is absolutely absurd. I think it's absurd in the short term. Obviously, if it continues for a long time, that could be a problem. But you're right. I mean, it's been 1 week. I keep reminding people of that. So you can weigh in on our text line brought to you by RegenesisStemCell.com. Let me tell you about Regenesis. They're awesome. They can help you when it comes to back pain. That's what they did for me. They offer state-of-the-art bone marrow stem cell therapy to comprehensively address back pain. It's safe. It's effective. It has provided relief for patients with degenerative disc disease, herniated discs, arthritis, bone spurs, and sciatica, and much, much more. I dealt with back pain for years. Then I got their treatment. I was always worried I was going to have some kind of invasive back surgery, which can be risky. But no, I went to Regenesis Stem Cell Center instead, and they helped me out so much. Their patients choose stem cell therapy with Regenesis Stem Cell Center to address their back pain because they want to stop and even reverse the degeneration that is the source of their discomfort. So call Dr. Charles Lee today at Regenesis, 256-715-8193, or go to RegenesisStemCell.com. That's RegenesisStemCell.com. When you do, let them know Yaffee sent you. Back in a moment here on the Yaffee program.
The Yaffee program.
Every day, excessive delays and denials from big insurers keep patients from accessing the care they need. And when care is urgent, these delays can be disastrous. These practices cost billions in wasteful spending, driving up costs for American families. But while big insurers put up barriers, America's hospitals and health systems are in your corner, navigating endless reviews and appeals to get you the care you need when you need it most. It's time to curb these harmful practices and put the focus back on patients. Brought to you by the Coalition to Strengthen America's Healthcare.
What would you do if your online store converted 36% more shoppers? You could take 36% more vacation.
Another pina colada? Yes, please.
Open a new retail location with 36% more square feet.
Fantastic.
Hire 36% more help.
You're hired and you're hired.
Shopify has the world's best converting checkout, up to 36% better than other e-commerce platforms. What you do with those extra sales is up to you. Switch to Shopify today at shopify.com/listen and get a $1 trial. Shopify.com/listen.
We're back here on the Yaffee program, News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM WVNN. I am Alabama's Truth Czar. As you know, this is Huntsville's Disinformation Board. Glad you've joined the show today. Some people weighing in on our text line, brought to you by RegenesisStemCell.com. One person said this is Casey from Newmarket weighing in. Said presidents have been taking military actions against hostile nations since Thomas Jefferson in North Africa some 220 years ago. What's happening now is far from new. Actually, glad you brought up that point because that's going to come up here with the second segment of the Sunday News Show's recap. Recapping the Sunday news talk shows so you don't have to watch them. That's right. And I don't accept any taxpayer funds to do it. Just a public service, my public service to you. It's a free service to you. You can listen for free. What can I say? You're welcome. So on the note on presidential authority, and how the Democrats have been very, very hypocritical on this. Not that Republicans are never hypocritical, but Democrats are this time. But Jonathan Turley is a legal expert. He was on Fox News talking about this and makes a good point. So play a Jonathan Turley cut one for me.
Well, you know, the position of senior Democrats is not just hypocritical, it's now incomprehensible. You have people like Pelosi, Blumenthal, who are expressing revulsion that there was not prior consultation authorization. These are the same people that said that President Obama did not require that authorization for an 8-month war where he attacked the capital city of a foreign country without any imminent threat in an open effort to have regime change. And they green-lighted that and said, you don't have to come to us. And so it's bizarre for them now to say, well, but this is a War Powers Act violation. Trump is in compliance with that act. Look, presidents since Jefferson have been boxing in Congresses over their ability to start wars. I mean, they have a right to initiate combat operations. That's been accepted since the beginning of the Republic. Once you're in those operations, it's very hard to get that cat to walk backwards. But these members are in direct contradiction to their prior positions.
Of course they are. Of course they are. We all know that if Biden did this exact same thing a couple years ago, they would support it. But we all know that there would probably be some Republicans that wouldn't. I'm not saying, like I said, Republicans aren't immune from hypocrisy, but the Democrats really own it right now. Now, what Democrats are saying is Libya was different. They're like, oh, yeah, but Libya was different. It's not like this is different. Well, Jonathan Turley kind of reacts to that. So play a Turley cut two for me.
That, I got to tell you, that dog won't hunt. I represented members challenging the Libyan war. We lost that case. And the fact is courts have deferred to presidents and to Congresses in the use of their respective authorities here. But to say that Libya was in any way a limited war is perfectly bizarre. I mean, we took out columns of military units. We attacked the capital city. We made it clear that we wanted regime change. What's limited about that? It went on for 8 months and billions of dollars.
I mean, he's right. It didn't get maybe the attention that this one is getting because Libya doesn't affect us as much as Iran, but still. I mean, he makes a good point there. He also has a new book out called Rage of the Republic, talking about the divide in this country, and I thought he made an interesting point on that, so I wanted to play that. Play cut 3 of Jonathan Turley.
Rage of the Republic is really a book about revolutions. It looks at the American Revolution, the French Revolution, and asks why one became the world's oldest democracy and the other became a bloodletting, the terror, and what we could learn from that. And the question is, can this republic survive the 21st century? Can it survive us? I think it can. I think it can thrive. But we have to understand what brought us to this point. What was the distinction between those two revolutions? And we've lost that. The real crisis today is a crisis of faith. It's people who want to scrap the Constitution on its 250th anniversary of our independence. It's people who want to pack the Supreme Court. We have to address that, because we're facing everything from AI to robotics to global governance systems that are real existential threats. We're going to need to remember who we were then and who we are now.
And by the way, one point to be made, other than the fact that he's right, there are some on the left that basically do want to scrap the Constitution, or at least, at the very, very least, radically transform the interpretation of it. You know, there's a whole book by leftist Eli Mistel, who was on MSNBC, or, MS Now. He's on there all the time. I mean, about that. I mean, there are definitely leftists who would want to do that. But the fact is, do you trust our politicians today to make a system that's better than what our founders made in the U.S. Constitution? I mean, I'm not going to say that everything has been perfect. That's why we had amendments. But this idea that these current politicians, this current crop of politicians, going to make a system that's much better? Do you honestly trust that? Our country was founded on true principles based on human nature, and human nature hasn't changed. So I've never bought into the argument that we need to completely scrap it. Show me something better. Nobody has been anywhere close at being successful at showing me something that's better, that would work better than our current Constitution. And I don't trust these people to make something better. Just got to tell you. If you want to weigh in, we have our Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866. Another person said, you said that people are getting a little too excited about gas prices. At what point do we move from being excited to legitimately concerned? 2 weeks? 2 months? A year? I mean, 2 months is not bad. It's been 1 week. So let's at least wait 2 months. How about that? All right, got to move on to what's trending. Coming up next, and one more segment of the Sunday News Show's recap at the end of the show. This is the Yaffee program, back in just a moment.
It's the Yaffee program on WVNN.
We're back here on the Yaffee program. This is Huntsville's, Alabama's Smart Talk Radio. Glad you've joined the show today. If you miss any of the show live, the podcast is up on the website, WVNN.com, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Make sure to subscribe and, yes, tell your friends. And make sure to say it right, Yaffee, not Yappy. By the way, time for the final segment here of the Sunday News Show's recap. Recapping what happened, what was talked about, the highlights from those Sunday news talk shows like Meet the Press and more. So you don't have to watch them, which I'm sure you're thanking me for. I can hear you. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, so we got to get to the Democrat response to Iran, some of the crazy response, as you can imagine, including from Senator Chris Murphy, who never misses an opportunity to speak with the propaganda press about this. So go ahead if you can. Walker, play Chris Murphy, cut 1 for me.
I mean, this is already a war that is becoming an ongoing disaster. It gets worse if the president is talking about putting ground forces in. You're talking at that point about dozens, if not hundreds, of new American casualties. I think this administration just fails to understand how to achieve any of their objectives. So their objectives shift by the minute. Sometimes we're pursuing regime change, sometimes we're not. They have been consistent about trying to eliminate Iran's nuclear program, but what they fail to understand is that you can't bomb knowledge out of existence. Even if you were to do something wildly dangerous, like putting American ground forces in to try to extract some of their enriched uranium, there's still going to be the knowledge inside Iran, so that if you don't actually succeed in putting a new leader inside that country, they'll just be able to rebuild that capacity as soon as American forces are gone. So this is $1 billion waste of money. Every single day, we are pursuing objectives that the administration can't actually effectuate, including using military force to try to destroy the knowledge that already exists inside Iran to build a nuclear weapon.
Right. All right, a lot to discuss there. One, if you listen to Chris Murphy, I guess we just let them get nukes. I mean, is that what he's saying? Well, they have the knowledge, so there's nothing we can do. Let them have a nuke. Let Iran have a nuke? Is that your position? That's really what Jake Tapper should have asked. So are you saying there's just nothing we can do and we should have let them have nuclear weapons? I don't. Okay. Also, and this is the common theme of the show today, you have those in the propaganda press and the Democrat Party who are saying this war is already an unmitigated disaster, is what he said. It is? How? We have been completely dominant on the battlefield. We have taken out most of their top leadership, most of their missile launching capabilities. Their Navy has been basically destroyed. What is the unmitigated disaster? It's been a week, and through just an air campaign, we have been very, very successful. So it's just, they live in a different world, I guess. To honestly say with a straight face that this war is already an unmitigated disaster makes no sense. It's one thing to disagree. Okay, fine. You disagree with the policy. You don't like the idea of a war in the Middle East. Okay, fine. I get that. I can at least kind of understand that. But to already go on one of these Sunday talk shows and just say with a straight face it's an unmitigated disaster is completely, it's not even in touch with any type of reality. But that's Chris Murphy, I guess. I'm going to play cut 2 of Chris Murphy for me.
So there are all sorts of regimes that I oppose around the world, but that doesn't mean that I advocate for the United States military to go in with aerial campaigns and ground campaigns to eliminate that leadership, because what we have vast experience with, especially in the Middle East, is that leads to more destabilization, more problems, more threats against the United States. And again, let's be clear, even though Donald Trump says that his goal is regime change, it doesn't look as if we're going to do anything except substitute one hardline leader with another hardline leader. And that, in the end, is going to make Iran a place that continues to engage in provocations throughout the region and against the United States after our military campaign is done. This, in the end, just doesn't seem to achieve anything other than waste $1 billion a day and drive up prices for Americans here at home.
Is this guy for real? That's an honest question. You can answer that. Is this guy for real? Maybe not. I don't know. Now, look, as I keep mentioning, we are only in this war 1 week. So if we're in this war for months on end and we can't seem to effectuate real change, then you can kind of make the argument that nothing is being accomplished. But to say as of today, after we've taken out most of the leadership and most of their military, that we haven't accomplished anything, I mean, I guess his point of view is after October 7th, Israel should have just done nothing. Oh, well, we're attacked. It's our fault anyway. After 9/11, I guess we should have done nothing. But even beyond that, his point is that we just let them have nuclear weapons? Well, we can't stop them anyway, so just let them have that. That'll be great. Now, I'm guessing if you asked him, he would probably say, well, we need diplomacy. We need to give them billions of dollars so they can ramp up their terrorist activities. I don't know why this is. I understand this is the times we live in where everything is partisan, whatever. And this is why you need me to be your voice of reason. But it's one thing if you're a Democrat and you just disagree with the policy and you're not sure how this is going to work, but you hope for the best. It's another thing to be this. To be crazy, say it's already an unmitigated disaster, say all we're doing is wasting money, say we're not going to achieve any of our objectives, and we can't stop Iran from having a nuke anyway. And then act like you're the voice of reason. I don't think so. Now, Chris Murphy also was asked about the fact that it looks like it appears an Iranian school was accidentally hit by U.S. troops, although President Trump says that it was a misfire by Iran, which is totally possible. We saw that in Gaza. The terrorists there would misfire and then blame the U.S. and Israel. And it turned out that it wasn't true. It was them. But beyond that, he basically says, uses it to bash Trump again. Going to play cut 3 of Chris Murphy.
I think it is likely the United States that carried out this attack on this school. I think it's unforgivable under any circumstances, but the fact that this was one of our first targeting decisions, that this mistake was made on the first day of war, I think speaks to the incompetence of our leadership at the Department of Defense. There's also some reporting in the last 48 hours that we hit a desalinization plant. That may be an intentional strike. If we're hitting girls' schools by mistake and trying to separate the ability of the Iranian people to get clean water, that's a war ultimately that's going to give rise to a broader Shia militancy against the United States. It was our attacks on civilians, some intentional, some unintentional, inside Afghanistan that ended up giving rise to giving a second chance to the Taliban.
Do you think the strike against the girls' school is a war crime?
Well, I think if it's a mistake, it's very different than an intentional strike. So there are undoubtedly mistakes that are made in war. I trust that this was a mistake, but the fact that it was a mistake made on the first day, I just think speaks to the fact that we don't have serious people right now making decisions at the White House.
Well, at the very least, at least he was willing to say it wasn't a war crime. He actually had to think about
certainly as it
that.
relates to the Ayatollah.
But there you go. Chris Murphy is he is something else. They are just already excited to say this is a failure when the evidence shows otherwise. There is no evidence to say this is an unmitigated disaster already, and they just want to say that now. It is crazy. All right, we'll be back tomorrow.
The Yaffee Program